They say money can fix anything, but on that afternoon, sitting in a quiet public park, a billionaire realized there was one thing his fortune had never been able to buy: his son's smile. What he didn't know was that a homeless girl, with nothing but a torn book and a kind heart, was about to change everything. And when he finally discovered the truth, the decision he made shocked not only the city, but his own soul. The black luxury car rolled to a slow stop beside the park, just as it did every afternoon. The driver stepped out first, opening the door with practiced precision. Inside, Daniel Harrington sat motionless for a moment, his gaze fixed on the playground ahead. Children ran, laughed, fell, stood up again. Every sound felt distant, almost cruel. In the back seat, his son, Ethan, waited quietly. Ethan was 8 years old. His legs were thin and still beneath the blanket, resting in a custom wheelchair that cost more than most people earned in a year. Daniel had paid for the best doctors, the best hospitals, the best treatments in the world. Europe,
Asia.
experimental therapies no one else could access. Nothing had worked. The accident had stolen Ethan's ability to walk. And it had stolen something from Daniel, too. The driver carefully lifted Ethan into the wheelchair, and Daniel followed as they entered the park. This place had become their routine. Doctors said fresh air was good. Therapists said public spaces might lift Ethan's mood. Daniel came because he didn't know where else to go with his grief. They stopped near a large oak tree, their usual spot. Daniel checked his phone, pretending to read emails while watching his son from the corner of his eye. Ethan stared at the ducks near the pond, silent, his hands folded in his lap. Daniel's chest tightened. He would have given anything, everything, to hear his son laugh again the way he used to. Then he noticed her. At first, she blended into the background. Just another forgotten figure in worn clothes sitting on the grass. Daniel almost looked away until Ethan spoke. "Dad, who's that?" Daniel followed his son's gaze. A girl, maybe 17 or 18, sat a few feet away. Her sweater was oversized and faded, sleeves pulled over her hands. Her shoes were cracked, barely holding together. She held a small book, its cover bent and pages yellowed. She looked up and smiled at Ethan. Not the polite smile people gave out of pity. A real one. "Do you like stories?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. She opened the book and began to read. Her voice was calm, warm, steady. She changed it for different characters, adding little expressions that made the story come alive. Slowly, something incredible happened. Ethan leaned forward. Then he smiled. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't forced. It wasn't brief. It spread across Ethan's face like sunlight breaking through clouds. And then, something Daniel hadn't heard in years, Ethan laughed. A real laugh. Daniel froze. He had spent millions chasing that sound. Doctors had promised it. Therapists had guaranteed progress. None of them had delivered this. And here it was, given freely by a girl with nothing. Daniel stayed where he was, watching. He didn't interrupt. He didn't move. He was afraid the moment would shatter if he did. When the girl finished reading, she reached into a small paper bag and pulled out a piece of bread. She broke it in half and handed some to Ethan. "I'm not hungry," she said quickly when he hesitated. "You eat." Ethan smiled and took it. Daniel felt something twist painfully inside him. The girl stayed for over an hour. She told stories. She listened when Ethan talked about school, about how he wanted to run one day, about how he hated being stared at. She didn't flinch. She didn't rush to comfort him with lies. She just listened. Before leaving, she stood up and waved. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said. Ethan's eyes lit up. "Promise." "I promise." She walked away, disappearing toward the rougher edge of the city. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. Ethan talked about her nonstop during dinner. "She's funny, Dad. She doesn't treat me like I'm broken." Those words hurt more than Daniel expected. The next day, Daniel arrived early.
So did she.
And the next day. And the next. She always came at the same time. She never asked for money. When strangers dropped coins near her, she gently pushed them back. She never asked about Daniel. She never asked why Ethan was in a wheelchair. She simply showed up. One afternoon, rain began to fall suddenly. People rushed for cover. Daniel stood, ready to wheel Ethan back to the car. But before he could, the girl took off her sweater and draped it over Ethan's shoulders. She got soaked. Ethan laughed as rain splashed around them. "The sky's crying," he said. She smiled. "It's okay. Sometimes crying makes you lighter." Daniel turned away so she wouldn't see his tears.
Who was she?
Why did she care? Daniel quietly asked his assistant to look into local shelters, outreach programs, anywhere she might be known. The answer came back empty. "She's not registered anywhere, sir." She existed outside the system. That knowledge haunted him. A week later, Daniel finally approached. She was reading again when she noticed him standing nearby. Her smile faded instantly. She stood up, nervous. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," Daniel replied softly. "My son, he looks forward to seeing you." She glanced at Ethan, who nodded eagerly.
"He's good company," she said.
Daniel swallowed. "Why do you do this?" She thought for a moment. "Because he smiles." Nothing more. That night, Daniel realized something terrifying and beautiful. His son had found hope. And it hadn't come from money. It had come from compassion. And Daniel Harrington was about to make a decision that would change all their lives. The days that followed settled into a quiet rhythm Daniel hadn't felt in years. Every afternoon, the park no longer felt like a reminder of what Ethan had lost, but a place where something new was growing. And at the center of it all was Lily. Daniel began arriving early, parking farther down the street, so she wouldn't notice him watching. He sat on a bench with a newspaper he never read, listening instead. Lily spoke to Ethan like he was her equal, never lowering her voice or simplifying her words. She asked his opinions. She laughed at his jokes. She treated him like a whole person, not a problem to be solved. One afternoon, Ethan asked, "Why do people stare at me?" Lily closed the book slowly. "Because they don't understand," she said. "And sometimes people stare at things they're afraid of." "Are you afraid of me?" Ethan asked quietly. She shook her head without hesitation.
"No."
"I'm afraid of losing people I care about." "You're not scary at all." Ethan smiled, comforted in a way Daniel had never seen before. Daniel's chest tightened. He realized Lily was doing something no professional ever had. She was giving Ethan permission to feel without fixing him. As the weeks passed, Daniel noticed things that troubled him. Lily always arrived hungry. He could see it in the way her eyes lingered on food carts, the way she insisted she wasn't hungry while sharing the little she had. Her clothes grew thinner as the weather cooled. Still, she never asked for anything. One evening, Daniel finally spoke to her again. Ethan was watching the ducks, distracted. "My name is Daniel," he said gently. She nodded. "I know." He blinked. "You do. You sit there every day pretending to read," she said, a small smile appearing. "You're not very sneaky." He laughed quietly, surprised. "Fair enough." They stood in silence for a moment. "Do you have somewhere safe to sleep?" he asked carefully. Her shoulders stiffened. "I manage." "I believe you," Daniel said. "But you shouldn't have to." She looked away. "Help always comes with rules." Daniel felt the weight of her words. He didn't push. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her. About how easily the world ignored someone like Lily. About how close she was to his life, yet how far apart their worlds truly were. The next afternoon, rain threatened again. Lily arrived soaked, her hair clinging to her face. "Why didn't you stay dry?" Ethan asked. She smiled. "Didn't want to miss our story." Something inside Daniel broke. He made a decision, not a grand one yet, but a small step. "Would you join us for dinner?" he asked her that evening. No expectations. No obligations. Lily froze. "I don't want money." "I'm not offering it," he said. "I'm offering a meal." She hesitated, eyes darting to Ethan. "I want her to come," Ethan said firmly. Lily agreed, but only on one condition. "I can leave whenever I want." "Of course," Daniel replied. That night, Lily sat at a table that felt unreal. The plates were heavy, the room warm, the food more than she had seen in months. She held her fork awkwardly, afraid it might disappear. Ethan talked endlessly, his voice alive. Daniel watched, realizing how empty his house had been. After dinner, Lily stood by the door.
"Thank you," she said.
"But I can't stay." Daniel nodded. "Then tell me something. Why the park? Why him?" Her voice shook. "Because he needed someone. And because I lost my family. Being with him makes it hurt less." The words hit Daniel like a blow. "Where do you sleep?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "Wherever it's safe enough." That night, Daniel didn't call his lawyers. He didn't call his assistants. He sat alone, realizing that wealth meant nothing if he ignored suffering standing right in front of him. The next day, Ethan asked a question that forced his hand. "Dad, can Lily stay forever?" Lily laughed nervously. "That's not how life works." But Daniel saw the hope in his son's eyes and the fear in hers. He knew then that walking away would be the cruelest choice of all. And so Daniel Harrington prepared to do something that would shock everyone who knew him. Not with money, but with trust. Daniel didn't make his decision all at once. It came in quiet pieces, late at night, when the house was silent and Ethan was asleep. He would sit in his study, staring at the city lights through tall glass windows, thinking about how easily the world moved past people like Lily. For the first time in years, his wealth felt heavy, not powerful, but burdensome. The next afternoon, Lily arrived at the park as usual, but something in her expression had changed. She was more guarded, as if she sensed a shift in the air. Daniel approached slowly, careful not to frighten her away. "Walk with me?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. They moved along the path, while Ethan watched ducks from his wheelchair. "I want to help," Daniel said simply. She stopped walking. "I told you, I don't want money." "I know," he replied. "That's not what I'm offering." She studied his face, searching for the hidden cost. "Then what?"
"Dignity," he said.
"Safety."
"Choice."
Her breath caught. "Those things never come free." "I'm not asking you to owe me," Daniel said. "I'm asking you to work with us. Ethan needs you. And so do I." Lily laughed softly, but there was pain in it. "You don't need someone like me." Daniel met her eyes. "My son hasn't laughed like this in years. You did that." Tears welled before she could stop them. She turned away, ashamed. "I lost my parents when I was 14, she said quietly. "House fire. I bounced between relatives until they got tired of me. I stopped trusting promises." Daniel listened without interrupting. "When I met Ethan," she continued, "he didn't look at me like I was broken. So I stayed." Daniel swallowed. "Then stay," he said. "But on your terms." They agreed on something small. Lily would officially spend time with Ethan as a reading companion. No contracts trapping her. No publicity. Just structure and pay. When Daniel told Ethan, the boy's joy was immediate. "Does this mean she's not leaving?" Lily knelt beside him. "It means I'm here today. And tomorrow." It was enough. Words spread faster than Daniel expected. Staff noticed Lily's presence. Board members whispered. Some warned him it looked unprofessional. Daniel ignored them all. Ethan began changing in ways that surprised his doctors. He spoke more. He engaged. He dreamed aloud again. One afternoon, Ethan asked, "Do you think I'll ever walk?" The room went quiet. Daniel held his breath. Lily didn't rush. "I don't know," she said honestly. But I know this. You're already strong. Ethan smiled. Then I'll keep trying. That night, Daniel realized healing wasn't always about cures. It was about courage. The turning point came unexpectedly. A journalist spotted Lily leaving the house one evening. Within days, headlines appeared, twisted, speculative. Daniel was furious. Lily panicked. I told you this would happen, she said. People don't like stories like mine. Daniel stood firm. Then we'll tell it truthfully. At a public charity event weeks later, Daniel stepped onto the stage. Cameras flashed. The room waited for numbers and pledges. Instead, he spoke about his son, about a girl who asked for nothing,
About compassion.
He invited Lily up. She froze. You don't have to, he whispered.
She walked anyway.
Her voice trembled, but she spoke.
About loss.
About kindness. About choosing to care even when you have nothing. The room was silent. Something shifted. After that night, donations poured in, not for Daniel, but for shelters for disabled children, for people forgotten by the system. Lily became a symbol, not of rescue, but of resilience.
And Ethan?
He wheeled himself closer to the world, believing in it again. Daniel had spent a lifetime chasing success. He was finally learning what it meant to matter. Life slowly settled into a rhythm that was both extraordinary and ordinary. Daniel, Ethan, and Lily had created a world within the mansion that felt safe, warm, and full of laughter, something Daniel hadn't realized had been missing from his home for decades. Every afternoon, Ethan waited by the oak tree in the park, wheelchair ready, while Lily arrived quietly, backpack slung over her shoulder, carrying books and sometimes a small lunch for both of them. The neighborhood children began noticing her too. They'd point and whisper, curious about the girl who seemed to appear from nowhere, bringing stories and smiles wherever she went. And through it all, Daniel watched from a distance, careful not to impose, yet silently grateful for the miracle unfolding in front of him. One afternoon, as the leaves began turning gold and red, Ethan asked a question that stopped Daniel mid-step. Do you think she'll ever have a home? Daniel glanced at Lily, who was lying on her stomach on the grass, turning pages in a tattered fairy tale book. Her hair was loose now, catching the sunlight like strands of gold, eyes alight with enthusiasm as she animatedly described the hero's adventure. I don't know, Daniel said quietly. But I promise we'll figure something out. Lily didn't look up. I'm fine, she said softly, though her voice carried a note of uncertainty that even Daniel could not ignore. That evening, he couldn't sleep. He wandered the empty corridors of his mansion, thinking of the girl who had given his son joy without asking for a thing. He realized that the smallest act of kindness, something so simple and pure, had done what millions of dollars could not. By the next morning, he had made a decision that would redefine everything. He wouldn't just provide Lily with a place to stay. He would offer her stability, security, and a role that recognized her heart and her talent. Not charity. Not a publicity stunt. Just a life, real and whole. When he told Lily, she stared at him, stunned. I can't accept that, she whispered, her hands twisting in her lap. I'm not asking you to accept it as charity, Daniel replied. I'm offering it because you matter. Because Ethan matters. Because we've all been missing something, and I think we can fill it together. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hope. It was fragile, cautious hope, but it was hope nonetheless. In the following weeks, Lily began settling into her new routine. She had her own small room in the mansion, simple but comfortable. She helped Ethan with reading, with storytelling, and sometimes even guided him through small exercises the therapists had suggested. It was nothing revolutionary, but it worked. Ethan's spirit soared. His laughter became more frequent. His curiosity returned. Daniel watched it all and felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. But the world outside was not always kind. Some whispered about the billionaire and the homeless girl. Some doubted her motives. Some mocked the arrangement, calling it a publicity stunt or questioning her character. Daniel ignored it all. What mattered was not the opinions of strangers, but the quiet, profound change that was happening inside their home. One evening, after a particularly joyful day in the park, Ethan leaned back in his wheelchair and asked Lily, "Will you stay with me forever?" Lily laughed softly, shaking her head. "I can't promise forever," she said gently, "but I can promise today and tomorrow, and as long as I'm needed." Ethan's face lit up, and Daniel felt a warmth spread through him. For the first time in years, the house was filled with genuine happiness. Not the kind that comes from wealth, but the kind that comes from connection, from love, from being seen and cared for. As autumn deepened, Daniel began inviting Lily to meetings and charity events, not as a guest, but as a partner. He wanted her voice heard, her story told, not as a tale of pity, but as a testament to resilience and kindness. At first, she hesitated. She had learned to avoid attention, to blend into the shadows. But with Daniel's encouragement, she began speaking publicly about the power of compassion, about the importance of human connection, and about how one small act can ripple outward to change countless lives. The impact was immediate. Donations to programs helping children with disabilities and providing shelter to the homeless surged. Volunteers arrived with renewed energy. Stories of kindness, small and large, began appearing across social media. Lily became a symbol, not of celebrity, but of hope. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to thrive. He asked more questions, laughed more freely, and even began imagining a life that extended beyond the limitations of his wheelchair. He and Lily created imaginary worlds together, full of adventure, courage, and laughter. Daniel sometimes joined in, marveling at the imagination and creativity that he had never realized could bloom in his son. One chilly afternoon, Daniel found Lily sitting alone on the park bench, watching the ducks with a distant look. He approached quietly. "You're thinking too much," he said gently. She looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. "I always think too much," she admitted. "I keep imagining what could go wrong." Daniel sat beside her. "What could go wrong?" "Everything," she said softly. "People like me, we don't get happy endings." Daniel shook his head. "You're writing your own ending now. One of hope, one of love, one that you deserve." For the first time, Lily allowed herself to believe it. And as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting the park in golden light, Daniel realized that the real miracle was not the wealth he had spent, nor the luxury he had provided, but the courage of a girl who had given freely and changed their lives forever. That evening, back in the mansion, Daniel watched Ethan and Lily sitting together by the fireplace, books open, laughter echoing through the halls. He felt an overwhelming gratitude, not just for Lily, not just for Ethan, but for the lesson they had taught him. Miracles, he understood now, didn't require money. They required heart, courage, and the willingness to care. Daniel sat quietly, letting the sound of laughter wash over him, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in decades. And as he looked at Lily and Ethan, he knew without a doubt that this was just the beginning, not just for them, but for all the lives they would touch together. The next morning, he made a call to expand their efforts. Schools, community centers, and charities welcomed them. Lily, now confident, began mentoring more children, reading to them, teaching them that their voice mattered. The mansion became a hub of hope, laughter, and kindness, a far cry from the sterile luxury it had been before. Through it all, Daniel watched silently, heart swelling with a gratitude that words could not contain. Every story Lily told, every laugh Ethan shared, every small act of kindness rippling outward reminded him that the world could be better, not through money, not through power, but through genuine human connection. And as autumn turned to winter, the park remained their sanctuary. Each afternoon, Ethan in his wheelchair, Lily with her tattered books, and Daniel standing quietly nearby, observing, remembering, learning. They were 3 lives intertwined in a tapestry of hope, laughter, and love, proving that miracles often arrive quietly, without fanfare, in the form of compassion, care, and unwavering human kindness. Winter had arrived, painting the city in frost and soft golden light. The park, once a place of routine walks and quiet observation, had transformed into a stage for something extraordinary. Every day, Ethan wheeled himself toward the familiar oak tree, Lily by his side, and Daniel watching from a distance. Their lives, once defined by loss, fear, and isolation, now pulsed with hope, laughter, and the quiet magic of genuine connection. Daniel reflected on the journey that had brought them here. His fortune, once a symbol of power and influence, now felt insignificant compared to the gifts that Lily had given his son. A smile, a story, a sense of worth that no doctor or therapist could ever manufacture. It was a lesson in humility, in grace, in the realization that true wealth is measured not in dollars, but in hearts touched, lives changed, and moments of pure joy shared freely. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through bare tree branches, Ethan turned to Lily with excitement shining in his eyes. "Do you think we could make a real adventure this winter?" he asked. "Like the ones in your stories?" Lily chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I think we could," she said. "And maybe we'll invite a few friends." Daniel overheard the exchange and smiled quietly. Friends meant new stories, new connections, new ripples of kindness spreading beyond the mansion walls. It was exactly what he had hoped for without fully realizing it. The power of one person's courage and compassion had grown into a movement, subtle yet profound. That evening, the mansion was alive with quiet energy. Children from the local community had arrived, invited by Lily and Daniel's expanding efforts to reach those in need. They sat in the cozy library, listening intently as Lily animatedly told stories of brave heroes, clever dragons, and impossible journeys. Ethan, thrilled to have companions, laughed louder than ever, guiding them through interactive storytelling exercises, turning imagination into action. Daniel stood nearby, observing, feeling a sense of fulfillment deeper than any business victory he had ever celebrated. Later, when the children had left and the quiet settled over the house, Daniel found Lily sitting by the fireplace, Ethan asleep on the couch with his blanket tucked around him. The firelight danced across her face, highlighting the resilience and warmth that had captured his heart from the moment he first saw her in the park. "You've changed all of this," Daniel said softly. "Not just for Ethan, but for everyone here, for me, for the city even." Lily looked at him, her eyes shining with a mix of gratitude and vulnerability. "I didn't think anyone would notice," she admitted. "I've always been invisible." "Not anymore," Daniel replied. "You matter more than you realize. You've taught us that miracles don't come from money, but from kindness, patience, and love. You've reminded us what it means to truly care." For the first time in years, Lily allowed herself to feel seen, truly seen, without fear, without doubt. She leaned back, the weight of a lifetime of survival slowly easing. The next morning brought snow, soft and thick, blanketing the park in white. Ethan wheeled himself toward the oak tree, bundled against the cold, Lily walking beside him, and Daniel following. The air was crisp, filled with the quiet joy of possibility. Ethan's face lit up as he noticed tracks in the snow. "We can make snow forts today," he exclaimed, eyes sparkling with excitement. Lily laughed, grabbing handfuls of snow. "Then let's get to work," she said. "We'll make the best fort ever." Daniel watched them, feeling a sense of peace so profound it nearly brought him to tears. This was a life he had thought impossible, one filled with laughter, warmth, and shared adventures. All because a homeless girl had taken the time to care for a boy who had been invisible to everyone else. As the snow settled around them, Lily paused, looking at Daniel. "You know," she said softly, I never imagined my life could feel like this, like I belong somewhere. Daniel shook his head, smiling. You always belonged. You just didn't know it yet. And for the first time, he realized that his role as a father, a businessman, and a man of wealth was secondary to this lesson. Compassion, courage, and love had power beyond money, influence, or social expectation. The world could be changed in quiet ways through human connection, empathy, and unwavering kindness. Months passed, and the story of Lily, Ethan, and Daniel spread, not through tabloids or gossip, but through word of mouth, through communities inspired by their example, through children learning that every act of kindness mattered. Daniel's company quietly supported initiatives for the disabled and homeless, but more importantly, he and Lily became role models for the very real, very simple truth that anyone could make a difference. Ethan continued to flourish. He found joy in small victories, learning to play simple games, painting, storytelling, and dreaming about the world beyond his wheelchair. With Lily by his side, he felt capable, empowered, and loved. And Daniel, watching these two, finally understood that wealth without compassion was empty, but compassion multiplied by courage was priceless. One evening, as the snow melted and spring approached, Daniel brought Ethan and Lily back to the park. The familiar oak tree, once a symbol of routine and quiet sorrow, now stood as a beacon of hope. They sat together, sharing a simple picnic, and laughed, joked, and recounted stories. Do you think someone like me could ever make a difference? Ethan asked Lily, curious and wide-eyed. Absolutely, she replied. You already have. Daniel smiled, overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. He realized that true miracles weren't bought, begged for, or earned. They were created by the smallest acts of kindness, the courage to care, and the willingness to step into someone else's world without judgment or expectation. Years later, when people asked Daniel what had changed his life, he didn't talk about money, success, or power. He spoke about a homeless girl who refused to turn away from a child in need, a boy who taught him to hope again, and the life-changing decision to embrace compassion over convenience. And as for Lily, she found belonging, purpose, and love, not the kind measured in dollars or influence, but the kind that lives in hearts forever. The final lesson was simple, yet profound. Miracles don't begin with wealth. They begin with courage, compassion, and the willingness to see the humanity in others, no matter how small or broken they may seem. And in that quiet park, where it all began, a billionaire, a young boy in a wheelchair, and a homeless girl with nothing but a kind heart proved to the world, and to themselves, that love and kindness could truly change everything. As this story comes to an end, one truth stands clear. Miracles don't come from wealth, status, or influence. Sometimes they arrive quietly through a simple act of kindness, a listening ear, or a brave heart willing to care. A homeless girl with nothing gave a boy joy, a billionaire perspective, and proved that hope and compassion are more powerful than money ever could be. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Remember, the world changes one act of kindness at a time. Your small gesture could be someone's miracle. Thank you for watching, and always choose compassion. It's the truest form of wealth. Red Heart.